I am so excited that Joyce Wheeler is going to enlighten us about communication. That is so incredibly important in these days where so many people are stressed out. We have to learn to communicate in ways that other people will listen and understand that we have different ideas, different perspectives. But when we communicate properly, none of that matters. So, Joyce, I thank you so much for joining us. And how did you learn about communication personalities?
First, Cindy, thank you for having me on. It's an honor to be here. I learned about communication personalities when I was homeschooling my boys. They were in high school, and I had gotten them a DVD set about communication. They never picked it up, but I was interested, so I had listened to it, and I wanted to know more. And then I felt like it was a really important thing that people learn that just like how we learn or how we organize or how we do other things, our preferences for exercising, that that there are communication personalities. And when when we don't know how our partner communicates or how other people in our lives communicate, it can lead to misunderstandings, hurt feelings, and even negative conversations. So that's how I first learned. But when I decided to write an ebook on the topic, and while I was doing my research, I found out because I was looking for like set, like there's something that's got to be set, right? Turns out that's not true. If you
Hmm.
search communication personalities, you'll find all different types of names for them. So I just went with what resonated with me from what I learned on the DVD set.
So, how many different communication personalities are there? You said there's more than four?
Well, again, it depends upon where you go. If you do search for it, which website you go to is going to tell you there's more. But basically, across the board, four was what I came across.
Okay. And so, what are those four
But
types?
we have the processor, we have the expressor, we have the harmonizer, and we have the problem solver. So you can kind of get a gist of these personalities just by the name. It kind of
Mhm.
gives you a gist of what they are.
So, can you give an example from one of those personalities?
I can. My husband, he's a processor. I'm an expressor. So what happens when we communicate? Because he needs to process. So during a conversation, he might just become quiet.
Mhm.
So for me, being an expressor, I could take like that. He's shutting me out. He's just avoiding me, but he's actually processing what I'm saying and deciding how he wants to respond to it.
And so you don't have the emotional upset thinking that he's just not paying attention.
Right.
Okay.
Because as an expressor, expressors are very emotional. We talk with our hands, our facial expressions. We interrupt people, not because we're trying to be rude, but because our thoughts come so fast that we got to get it out.
Mhm. So, and you said there were two other communication styles. Can you describe someone with the others?
The harmonizer, they're all about let's make things nice. They want harmony, they want peace. It's
Mhm.
like they don't want to get upset, they don't want the other person upset. And then your problem solver, they're going to fix it. I'm going to fix it. I know the answer. I got this. So yeah. But the interesting thing is it's like in my ebook, I talk about not just a personality, but also like their strong points or what they need to work on. Like the processor, he needs to work on saying, can I have a minute to think about that? So that me as an expressor isn't like, oh, he's just shutting me out. He's ignoring me.
Hmm.
And that's the thing too, when you have two different communication personalities, we get mixed messages.
Yeah.
So the book also talks about how he can say, I need a minute. And then I need to learn to not respond to the fact that he's quiet and have empathy about his situation. But I think it's important that we learn about communication personalities.
It
And
does
if,
seem very important.
and if we're in a relationship, to know our partners. So I want to write another ebook for those in business, for those like working on
Mhm.
teams, because it's just communication isn't just about communicating our feelings or emotions.
Yeah.
It's about how we respond versus react. It's about learning how to take a deep breath, learning that if the conversation gets too heated, we need to take a break. It's about leaving the past in the past. Where this is the issue we're talking about right now. We're not talking about what happened before. We're not blaming each other. It's
Yeah.
about coming together and finding a solution for whatever issue we're dealing with. It's not about blaming. No, it's not you, it's not me. It's the issue. And that's what needs to be focused on.
Hmm. So, what is your communication personality?
I am an expressor.
Okay.
So we're very empathetic.
Okay.
We are, again, the way we communicate with our hands and facial expressions and whatnot. We are once you understand an expressor is very loyal, very loving, very faithful once you learn how to communicate with an expressor. As an expressor, I need to work on learning that not my emotions get in the way
Hmm.
during communication and to realize that I'm not necessarily being attacked, but I am safe. It's okay.
That's wonderful. So, do you have any suggestions for women who are in, how should I put it, difficult conversations with family members or people in their community, how they can, understand this simply and use this to their advantage?
I think listening is important. It's important not just to, you know, okay, I'm listening, but really, really listen to what the person is saying and to
Mhm,
acknowledge them. If I understand you correctly, this is what you're saying to me. Is that correct? Or once
mhm,
again, because there are different communication personalities, I was speaking with my son who was just here. And I said to him, I said, I'm not sure if I'm understanding you correctly. And I repeated back to him what he said to me, but like in a different way to where I understood it, but he could understand it too. And I said, is that what you're saying? And he said, yes. So it's a matter of sometimes, just rephrasing something. It's funny. My husband and I, we've been married 20 years now. And I would say like maybe once a year, it's maybe not that often. He'll be saying something to me. I understand the context of the words, but I don't understand what he's trying to tell me. And he'll have to repeat himself 4 different times in 4 different ways before I get it. And I'm like, oh, that's what you're saying. I mean, it goes both ways. The same when I'm saying something to him. Thankfully, we're both patient people and aren't just like, what can't you understand what I'm saying? It's like, this is what I'm telling you. What don't you understand about it? But, I think that a lot of conflict can be avoided if we just take time to listen. Take time to
Mhm.
notice patterns in people's behavior during communication. I
Mhm.
think that's a big help. But the thing is that it's something you need to train yourself to do, something that you want to do, and something that you have to be conscious of doing.
Oh, that's excellent advice. So, I know that you have so much knowledge about communication. If you could just give one tip, what would that one tip be?
Again, listen, just listen,
Listen.
listen. Yeah, and don't react, respond. The difference between reacting and responding is reacting could be like, oh, you do this all the time. But responding could be something like, I hear you, I understand what you're saying. We need to soften our tones
Mm,
especially when we love someone. You know, I love my husband, I love my children. I want to be able to communicate with them and not have it turn into a brawl.
yeah,
So in order to do that, we just really need to listen. And again, be aware of how the person responds or reacts, and try to calm it down a little bit. If they are reacting versus responding, just try to tell them calmly, it's okay. I'm here, I'm listening to you. I really want to resolve this issue if that's what it is, or I really want to understand what you're saying to me. And it's a matter of acknowledging the fact that people have different ways of communicating. We don't all communicate the same.
right? That's a very, very good point. But in that diversity, we can get strength if we pay attention
Right.
and and not judge.
Right. But
So,
again, I mean, it's something conscious that we have to do. And
mm,
let's face it, as humans, we're not conscious of it. We know we're talking, we know we're having a conversation. The conversation is getting heated. We don't know how to stop it from getting heated. So we just go with the flow and keep going and going versus going, wait a minute. I don't like where this conversation is going. We need to calm down, take a deep breath, relax, and focus on the topic that is being discussed instead of getting overheated, and learn how to say, I'm not understanding you. I want to understand you. I want to
mhm,
hear what you have to say to me. It's just a matter of being aware, again, consciousness,
mhm,
pay attention to what's being said, how it's being said, how the other person is reacting or responding. So I think that's really important for communication across the board.
absolutely. And if we could only get that to happen in politics, I don't know.
uh, that
Yes,
that's
all I can do is shake our heads on that one.
right.
But thank you for celebrating Women's Day with this really important part of human life.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you.